piercing, oscillating wail of an ambulance siren is growing rapidly louder. The blue and red lights swept across the front of the farmhouse like a strobe light in a horror movie, illuminating the porch swing, the hanging baskets, and the frantic faces of the people inside in disjointed rhythmic flashes. The peace of the Heartland ranch, usually so absolute at this hour, had been shattered by the mechanical scream of emergency services. Inside the hallway, time seemed to have warped. For Amy Fleming, seconds stretched into hours, and the air had become thick and gelatinous, making it impossible to breathe. She stood pressed against the wall, her hands covering her mouth, watching the paramedics swarm over the body of her grandfather. They were a blur of navy blue uniforms and urgent professional movements, their voices sharp and commanding, cutting through the terrified sobbing of Lisa. Jack Bartlett lay on the floor looking smaller than Amy had ever seen him. The man who was the bedrock of their lives, the man who could lift a hay bale with one hand and calm a stallion with a look, was now just a fragile heap of limbs. His skin was the color of old parchment, gray and waxy under the harsh overhead light. His chest, usually so broad and sturdy, was bare now, exposing the pale skin as the EMTs slapped electrode pads onto him. Amy wanted to move. She wanted to kneel beside him, to hold his hand, to tell him she was sorry. But her feet were nailed to the floorboards. Every time she tried to step forward, the memory of her own voice played back in her ears, distorted and amplified like a feedback loop. Maybe I should leave too. She knows how much Grandpa loves her. To collapse right after Amy said she was going to leave. She had hurled them at him like stones, intending to hurt, intending to drive him insane. And on the hospital bed, Lisa was on her knees, gripping Jack's lifeless hand with both of hers, her face buried in his shoulder. She was murmuring his name over and over again, a broken prayer that went unanswered by the chaos around them. Outside, the crunch of running footsteps on gravel announced another arrival. Dex had been finishing the night check in the barn when the sirens started. He had run the quarter-mile up the driveway, his chest heaving, his heart hammering against his ribs. Dex burst into the foyer, bringing the smell of cold night air and horses with him. He stopped dead in his tracks, his eyes widening as he took in the scene. He saw the paramedics. He saw Lisa. He saw Jack. Jack! No one answered him. The lead paramedic, a woman with a tight ponytail and eyes that had seen too much, looked up at her partner. We're losing the rhythm, fee-fib. Clear. Amy flinched, as if she had been the one shocked. A strangled cry escaped her throat. Dex took a step forward, instinctively reaching out to steady her, but he stopped when he saw Nathan. Nathan Price stood by the coat rack, arms crossed, watching the resuscitation efforts with a detachment that was chilling. He wasn't crying. He wasn't panicked. He looked like a man inconvenienced by a delay. We have a pulse. It's thready. Let's move him. Now. The movement became a blur of coordinated lifting and shifting. They hoisted Jack onto the stretcher, strapping him down with practiced efficiency. An oxygen mask was clamped over his face, obscuring the mustache that had defined his expression for decades. The hiss of the oxygen tank was loud in the sudden silence of the room. They began to wheel him out. Lisa scrambled to her feet, stumbling after them, clutching her purse with trembling hands. I'm coming with him. Amy peeled herself off the wall. She moved like a sleepwalker, following the procession out onto the porch. The cool night air hit her face, but it didn't wake her up. It just made the nightmare feel more real. Dexit, too, intercepted her at the bottom of the steps. He grabbed her arm, his grip firm but gentle. Amy, look at me. What happened? Amy looked at him. Her eyes were huge, dark pools of trauma. She shook her head slowly, the motion jerky and uncoordinated.
I did it.
What?
I yelled at him. I told him, Dex, I killed him.
The sound of the doors slamming shut was final. It was the sound of a prison cell locking. Amy flinched violently. No, Amy, no. That's not… People don't just collapse from yelling. He's been sick, right?
He was fine. He was yelling back. And I broke him.
She looked over her shoulder. Nathan was standing on the porch, illuminated by the porch light. He looked like a specter. He walked down the steps, his face arranging itself into a mask of appropriate concern as he approached them.
Amy, the ambulance is leaving. You need to go with Lisa. I'll follow in the car.
Amy nodded dumbly. She pulled her arm out of Dex's grip and stumbled toward the ambulance. The EMT helped her into the back, sitting her down next to Lisa. Dex watched as the ambulance pulled away, the siren starting up again as it hit the main road. The red lights faded into the distance, leaving the yard plunged back into darkness. Dex stood there for a moment, his heart racing. He looked at Nathan. Nathan was checking his watch.
Well, that was unfortunate.
Unfortunate? The man just died on his floor.
He's not dead yet. Jack is a stubborn old mule. Ace! Not dead yet. Jack is a stubborn old mule. He'll probably outlive us all.
Nathan's tone was casual, dismissive. He reached into his pocket and pulled out his keys.
I'm going to follow them. You stay here. Keep an eye on the place. Make sure the horses aren't spooked.
Dex watched Nathan get into his car. He felt a cold knot of suspicion tightening in his gut. There was something wrong about this. Something wrong about the way Nathan looked at Jack, not with worry, but with annoyance. And Amy. Amy was broken. She was convinced she had caused this. As Nathan's taillights disappeared down the driveway, the silence of the ranch returned. But it was a heavy, oppressive silence now. The wind whistled through the eaves of the barn, sounding like a mournful cry. Dex turned back to the house. The front door was still wide open. The light spilled out onto the empty porch. He walked inside. The living room was a mess. A rug was kicked up. A chair was overturned. It looked like a struggle had taken place. He looked around. Lou wasn't here. Lou, who was always the first one to take charge in a crisis. Lou, who would be screaming at the doctors right now. He realized then that no one had called her. Amy was in shock. Lisa was hysterical. And Nathan certainly wasn't going to call her. Dex reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. His fingers were shaking slightly as he scrolled through his contacts. He found her. He held the phone to his ear, pacing the length of the hallway, stepping over the spot where Jack had fallen. Ring. Ringed. Ring. Please, pick up, he thought. Please, Lou, pick up. The interior of Lou's car was a capsule of misery hurtling through the dark. The windshield wipers slashed back and forth, fighting a losing battle against the deluge that had opened up the moment they crossed the county line. Beside her, Katie was curled into a ball against the passenger door, her headphones on, staring blankly into the rain-streaked night. Lou's phone, resting in the cup holder, lit up. The sudden glow was blinding in the dark cabin. Lou glanced down. The name Dex flashed on the screen. A call at this hour, after everything that had just happened, meant only one thing. She snatched the phone up, swiping to answer.
Dex, what happened?
Lou, you need to turn around. It's Jack. The car swerved slightly as Lou's grip on the wheel convulsed. The name hit her like a physical blow to the chest.
Grandpa, what's wrong with him?
He collapsed. Lou, it's bad. The ambulance just took him. They had the paddles out. It didn't look good. The world seemed to tilt on its axis. The road, the rain, the fight with Amy had all dissolved into white noise. All Lou could see was Jack. Jack laughing at the dinner table. Jack walking with Lindy.
Which hospital?
Hudson General. Amy and Lisa went with him. Lou, I assumed nobody called you.
I'm coming. I'm coming right now.
She threw the phone onto her lap. She didn't check the mirrors. She didn't slow down. She slammed on the brakes and ripped the steering wheel to the left. Mom, what are you doing? The car skidded across the double yellow line, the headlights sweeping across the wet trees on the other side of the road. Lou fought the wheel, correcting the skid with a savage desperation. The tires found traction, biting into the pavement, and the car roared back in the opposite direction, toward Hudson, toward home.
It's Grandpa. He's in the hospital.
Katie ripped her headphones off, her face draining of color. She didn't ask questions. She just reached out and grabbed the dashboard, bracing herself as Lou floored the accelerator. Lou grabbed her phone again. Her fingers were trembling so hard she could barely hit the icons. She needed to talk to Amy. She needed to know he was still alive. She dialed Amy's number. Miles away, the taillights of the ambulance were fading into the distance. Nathan Price sat in the driver's seat of his car, the engine idling smoothly. The contrast between the chaos outside and the hermetically sealed luxury of his car was jarring. He looked down at the passenger seat. Amy's purse sat there, abandoned in her haste to get into the ambulance. Inside, her phone began to buzz. Nathan reached over. He picked up the device. The screen illuminated his face in a ghostly blue light. Lou. He slid his thumb across the screen. He didn't put it to his ear. He put it on speaker, holding it flat in his hand like a remote control.
Amy, pick up. Is he breathing? Dex said they used the paddles. Tell me he's breathing.
Nathan let the silence hang for a moment, savoring the sheer panic in her voice. When he spoke, his voice was calm, low, and terrifyingly reasonable.
She can't hear you, Lou.
There was a pause on the other end, a confused, breathless beat.
Nathan, why do you have her phone? Put her on. I need to speak to my sister.
Amy is with the doctors. She's trying to save the man you put in that ambulance.
Don't you dare put this on me. You did this. You stressed him out. Put her on the phone.
She doesn't want to talk to you, Lou. She's devastated. She knows what caused this. We all do.
I am coming there. You tell her I am coming.
I wouldn't do that if I were you. You'll only upset her more. Haven't you done enough damage to this family for one night?
Nathan, I swear to God, if you don't...
Nathan tapped the red icon. The line went dead. He didn't put the phone down. He unlocked it. Amy's passcode was laughably simple. Her birthday, and went into the call history. Lou, missed call. Lou, incoming call 23 seconds. He tapped edit. He selected the entries. He hit delete. The log was clean. As far as Amy would ever know, Lou hadn't called. Lou hadn't cared. Lou was halfway to wherever she was going, leaving her sister to deal with the tragedy alone. Nathan dropped the phone back into the purse. He adjusted his rearview mirror, checking his own reflection. He looked concerned. He looked supportive. He shifted the car into drive. Back on the highway, Lou stared at her phone in disbelief. The call-ended screen stared back at her.
He hung up on me.
She threw the phone against the passenger seat. It bounced off the leather and fell into the footwell. Mom? What did he say?
He said, Amy doesn't want to talk to me. He said I caused it.
Lou gripped the steering wheel until her hands ached. The rain was coming down harder now, a wall of water trying to keep her from Hudson. But she didn't care. She drove faster. The speedometer climbed past 120, then 130. She wasn't running away anymore. She was running into the fire. And this time, she wasn't going to let Nathan Price hold the door shut.
Hold on, Katie.
The waiting room of Hudson General Hospital was a purgatory designed in shades of beige and antiseptic white. The air smelled of rubbing alcohol and stale coffee, a scent that stuck to the back of the throat and refused to be swallowed. Amy sat on a hard plastic chair, her body curled inward as if she were trying to occupy the smallest amount of space possible. She was shivering, a violent, uncontrollable tremor that rattled her bones. Despite the stifling heat of the room, she looked down at her hands. They were stained with the dust from the farmhouse floor, grim reminders of the moment she had fallen to her knees beside her grandfather. There was a smear of dirt on her jeans, right where his hand had brushed against her leg as he fell. It felt like a brand, a mark of Cain. Every time she closed her eyes, the image was there, burned into her retinas in high definition. Jack's face, turning that terrifying shade of gray. The way his hand had clawed at his chest, not in a theatrical gesture, but with the desperate primal instinct of a drowning man trying to rip open a hole for air. And then the sound. The heavy, dead weight of his body hitting the hardwood. Amy squeezed her eyes shut, pressing the heels of her hands into her sockets until stars exploded behind her eyelids.
I did it. I did it. I did it.
The words were a mantra of self-destruction. She replayed the argument in a loop, dissecting every sentence, every tone. She heard the venom in her own voice. She had wanted to hurt him. She had wanted to win the argument. She had wanted to prove she was strong, that she didn't need him or Lou, and she had won. She was the last one standing, and the price of her victory was the silence in the next room where a team of strangers was trying to restart her grandfather's heart. Lisa emerged from the double doors that led to the trauma unit. Her usually immaculate hair was disheveled, pulled back in a messy knot. Her mascara had run in dark streaks down her pale cheeks. She wasn't crying anymore. She was in that hollow, shell-shocked state that comes after the tears run dry. Amy stood up, her legs wobbling dangerously.
Lisa.
Lisa looked at her. Her eyes were red-rimmed and glassy. For a second, she didn't seem to recognize Amy. Then recognition dawned, and with it, a flash of something that looked agonizingly like blame. It wasn't anger. It was too tired for that, but it was a heavy, crushing disappointment. They're taking him to the cath lab. There's a blockage, a massive one.
Is he going to?
Amy couldn't finish the sentence. The word die was too big, too sharp to fit in her mouth. Lisa shook her head, a slow, hopeless movement. They don't know. The damage, he was down for a long time, Amy. His heart stopped. Amy let out a small, strangled noise, covering her mouth with her hand. His heart stopped. It wasn't a metaphor. The biological engine that had kept their family running for generations had simply quit. The doctor said, "This doesn't just happen." He said his blood pressure must have been through the roof. He asked if he's been under significant stress lately. The question hung in the air between them, sharp as a scalpel. Significant stress. Amy felt the blood drain from her face. She looked at Lisa, pleading silently for absolution, but finding none.
I didn't mean it. Lisa, I swear, I didn't mean what I said.
Lisa looked at Amy, her expression hardening just a fraction. It doesn't matter what you meant, Amy. It matters what happened. Lisa turned and walked toward the window, staring out at the black parking lot, unable to look at Amy any longer. The rejection was absolute. Amy sank back into the plastic chair, burying her face in her hands. The guilt was a physical weight now, crushing her chest, making it hard to draw breath. She was alone. Lou was gone. Jack was dying. Lisa couldn't look at her. She had destroyed everything she touched. Footsteps approached, measured, calm, confident footsteps. They didn't scuff or squeak. They moved with purpose. Nathan Price sat down in the chair next to her. He didn't say anything at first. He just sat there. His presence a solid wall against the chaos. He smelled of expensive cologne and rain, a scent that was jarringly out of place in the antiseptic gloom. He reached over and took her hand. His skin was warm. Amy clung to it like a lifeline.
Lisa hates me.
Nathan sighed, a sound of deep, weary frustration. He used his free hand to smooth the hair back from Amy's forehead, a gesture of intimacy and control.
Lisa is grieving. She's looking for someone to blame. And you're the easiest target because you were the last one speaking.
He turned her face toward him, forcing her to meet his eyes. His gaze was intense, unwavering.
Jack didn't have a heart attack because of one argument. That's medically impossible. The doctor said it himself. Stress? Sustained chronic stress?
Amy blinked, tears spilling over her lashes.
Think about the last month. The mold, the quarantine, the financial freeze, the threat of losing the ranch. Who caused that, Amy? Who put this family in a pressure cooker? Jack has been carrying the weight of Lou's mistakes for years. But this sabotage, it broke him. He knew, deep down, that's why he was so angry. He was trying to defend her because he couldn't face the reality that his favorite granddaughter was destroying his legacy.
The narrative shifted. It was a subtle, masterful twist. The guilt that was crushing Amy began to slide off her shoulders and onto the empty chair where Lou should have been.
The human heart can only take so much betrayal. You stood up for the truth tonight. You tried to protect the ranch. That didn't kill him. Kecht didn't kill him. Kecht didn't kill him. What killed him was the realization that he couldn't protect Lou from herself anymore.
Amy stared at Nathan. It was a lifeline. It was a way out of the crushing self-hatred. If it wasn't her fault, if it was Lou's fault, then she wasn't a monster. She was a victim, too.
She did this.
She didn't pull the trigger, Amy, but she loaded the gun.
Amy nodded slowly. The tears stopped. Her face hardened, the grief crystallizing into something colder, something sharper. A nurse in blue scrubs stepped into the waiting area, holding a clipboard. She looked tired but kind. Family of Jack Bartlett? Amy and Nathan stood up. Lisa turned from the window, rushing over. He's out of the lab. He's stable, but critical. We've moved him to the ICU. He's heavily sedated, so he won't be able to talk, but can we see him? Immediate family only. 2 at a time. We need to keep the stimulation to a minimum. No stress. Absolutely no stress. Before the nurse could finish, the sound of running interrupted them. Amy turned. At the end of the long corridor, bursting through the entrance doors, was Lou. She was soaked to the bone, her hair plastered to her skull, water dripping from her coat onto the polished floor. She looked wild, her eyes wide with terror. Katie was trailing behind her, looking equally frightened.
Where is he? Is he okay?
Lou ran toward them, her boots squeaking loudly on the floor. She ignored Nathan. She ignored the glare from Amy. She looked straight at Lisa.
Tell me he's okay.
He is in critical condition. Amy looked at her sister. She saw the wet clothes. She saw the panic. But she didn't see love. She saw the stress. She saw the reason Jack was lying in a room full of machines. Nathan leaned in close to Amy's ear.
Remember what the doctor said. No stress. If she goes in there, if she causes a scene.
The threat hung in the air. If she goes in there, she finishes the job. Amy felt a surge of protective fury. She wasn't just protecting the ranch anymore. She was protecting Jack from Lou. She took a step forward, blocking the path to the ICU doors.
Stop.
The hallway of the ICU was a canyon of silence, amplified by the sudden cessation of Lou's frantic footsteps. She stood 10 feet away from Amy, her chest heaving, water dripping from the hem of her trench coat onto the polished linoleum. A small puddle was forming around her boots, dark and spreading, like a stain. Lou looked at her sister. Lou took a step forward, her hand reaching out instinctively.
Amy, move. I need to see him.
Amy didn't move. She stood planted in front of the double doors, her feet shoulder-width apart, her posture rigid. She looked like a sentinel guarding a fortress. Behind her, the intensive care unit sign glowed in stark, unforgiving red letters.
You can't go in there.
What? Amy, don't be ridiculous. This isn't about the ranch. This is Grandpa.
Exactly. It is about Grandpa. That's why you can't go in.
Amy took a breath. The air in the hospital felt thin, recycled, devoid of life. She could feel Nathan standing just behind her right shoulder, a silent shadow of support. She could feel his earlier words burning in her mind like a brand. The human heart can only take so much betrayal.
The nurse said no stress. Absolutely no stress.
I'm not stressed. I'm his granddaughter.
You are the reason he's in there.
The accusation echoed down the corridor, sharp and violent. Lou flinched as if slapped. Katie, standing behind her mother, let out a small whimper, clutching Lou's wet coat.
How can you say that?
Because it's true. The doctor said it. His heart didn't just stop. Lou, it gave out. It gave out because of the pressure you put on him.
Amy stepped closer, her eyes locking onto Lou's. They were cold, devoid of the warmth that used to define their relationship. They were the eyes of a stranger.
The mold, the investigation, the lies, the secrets. You pushed him, Lou. You pushed him to the edge because you couldn't handle losing control. And tonight, his body finally broke.
Amy, how could you?
That's right. You're the reason why he's like this.
The nurse, with a clipboard, stepped between them, looking alarmed. Her professional mask was slipping. This was escalating from a family dispute to a security issue. Ladies, please. This is an ICU. There are critically ill patients here. You need to lower your voices immediately. Lou looked at the nurse, desperation clawing at her throat. She pointed a shaking hand at the doors.
That is my grandfather in there. I have the medical power of attorney. I need to see him.
Lou looked past Amy, locking eyes with Lisa. Her face was a mask of raw, pleading desperation.
Lisa, tell them, please. I need to see him.
Lisa looked at Lou. Despite the exhaustion etching deep lines into her face, Lisa's instinct was instantaneous and maternal. She took a shaky step forward, reaching out her hands toward Lou. Of course, she's his granddaughter. Let her in. Lisa moved to embrace Lou, to pull her into the fold, to share the burden of the night. Amy stepped between them. It was a violent, jarring motion. She didn't just block the path. She severed the connection. She stood with her back to Lou, facing Lisa, her eyes wide with a manic, protective intensity.
No.
Amy, move. This isn't the time for...
It is exactly the time. You heard the doctor, Lisa. No stress. Absolutely no stress.
Lou isn't stress.
Jack is in there because of her.
The accusation hit the air like a gunshot. Lisa recoiled, stunned. Behind Amy, Lou let out a small, wounded sound. But Amy didn't turn around. She bore down on Lisa, her voice dropping to a harsh, terrifying whisper. Amy, stop it. Let's not... You can't blame her for a heart attack.
I'm not blaming her. I'm stating a fact. If she walks into that room, if he wakes up and sees the face of the person who betrayed him, it will kill him.
Amy grabbed Lisa's wrists. Her grip was tight, bordering on painful.
Is that what you want? Do you want to risk his life just to make Lou feel better? Do you want to watch the monitor flatline again?
Lisa froze. The manipulation was surgical. Amy had bypassed Lisa's love for Lou and struck directly at her deepest terror, losing Jack. And worst of all, if something happens to Jack in that room, Lou will be blamed forever. Lisa didn't want that. Lisa looked at the closed ICU doors, then at Lou's hysterical, weeping face. The fear paralyzed her. She couldn't speak. She couldn't breathe. Amy saw the hesitation. She turned to the nurse, her face set in stone. She wasn't just a grieving granddaughter anymore. She was the protector. She was the one Nathan had told her she needed to be.
Lisa, she is in shock. She can't make this decision. But I can.
Lou stared at Amy, her mouth opening and closing. No sound coming out. It was a betrayal so profound it defied language.
Amy, you can't be serious.
You are a threat to his recovery, Lou. You are the stress. I want her removed from the list.
The nurse looked at the trio. She saw Lisa, paralyzed and weeping. She saw Lou, soaked and frantic. And she saw Amy calm, composed, standing guard. In a hospital, the person shouting is the problem. The person speaking calmly is the solution. Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to wait in the main lobby. Or go home. You cannot be here right now.
Lisa, don't let her do this.
Lou lunged forward, trying to bypass Amy, trying to reach Lisa. Nathan moved. It was a smooth, calculated motion. He didn't touch Lou, but he placed his body directly in her path. A wall of expensive wool and quiet menace.
Don't make this worse, Lou. Look at Lisa. Look at Lisa. You're tearing her apart.
Lou stopped. She looked at Lisa. Lisa had buried her face in her hands, unable to watch.
Think of Katie. Do you want her to see her mother dragged out of a hospital in handcuffs? Security is on their way.
Lou looked up at Nathan. His eyes were flat, dead things. He was enjoying this. He was drinking it in. She looked down at Katie. Katie was crying silently, clutching Lou's coat, looking at Amy with terrified eyes. Lou felt the fight drain out of her legs. She wasn't beaten by Amy. She was beaten by the fear that she might actually hurt Jack if she stayed. Nathan's narrative had taken root.
You will regret this. When he wakes up, when he asks for me, you will regret this for the rest of your life.
He won't.
Lou stepped back. She took Katie's hand. Her grip was tight, desperate. Lou came in front of Katie, brushing a strand of damp hair away from her daughter's cheek. Her voice was shaky, but strong with conviction.
Katie, listen to me. You didn't do anything wrong, sweetheart. None of this is your fault.
Katie's eyes were wide with worry. She glanced from her mother to the ICU doors, clutching Lou's hand tight. But Grandpa needs us. Lou nodded, fighting to keep her own composure.
He does, and you should see him. You should say hello, Lisa.
Lou turned to her sister, her tone quietly pleading.
Please, take Katie in. She shouldn't have to wait out here. Let her see Grandpa, even if I can't.
Lisa hesitated, glancing between Lou and Amy, then softened. Of course. Come on, Katie. Lisa took Katie's hand and led her toward the ICU doors. Katie looked back at her mother, uncertain, but Lou managed a small, encouraging smile.
Go on, honey. Grandpa will be glad to see you.
Lou stayed behind, watching until they disappeared through the doors. She exhaled shakily, her arms wrapping around herself, holding in the ache of being left outside. Amy kept her distance, watching the reunion from afar. Nathan slipped an arm around Amy's shoulders, his presence steady but calculating.
You did the right thing, Amy. Oh,
You did the right thing, Amy.
Amy nodded, her eyes fixed on the ICU. The sound of the rain against the window filled the silence between them. For a moment, the hallway was quiet, just the echo of hope and the pain of letting go.